Extra Point Podcast from Arizona's family.
All right, should we plan the championship parade for the Phoenix Suns? Kevin Durant's debut is in the books, and it was a good one. So let's get an expert's opinion here on the Extra Point. Espo zooms in from PHNX, fresh off staying up all night and discussing this one. And Espo, most exciting moment in Suns history?
One of, yes. And most anticipated, probably pretty damn close to that. But there were some exciting moments in the 54 years prior to this. So I won't say most exciting, but it was probably most anticipated.
Well, and you just think about going back to last summer. And, you know, I posted a tweet just kind of joking because when after the Dallas series, Monty Williams was talking about in playoff basketball needing to have somebody else be able to score in the playoffs other than Devin Booker because he's getting blitzed and double teamed. And you just look at what he said back then and kind of joked. He was talking to Kevin Durant about this, and this was last May. It's come to fruition. Did you kind of have to rub your eyes a little bit looking at the TV? Was it like an NBA 2K trade that actually came to life?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you had to wait 18 days between the trade and when he actually took the court, you started to wonder, is my mind playing tricks on me? Is this really my beautiful house? Is this really my wife? Like, is this really my superstar on my basketball team? So yeah, there was that moment of it. But the story you just told about Monty and talking with KD and all that reminds me a lot of Jeff Hornacek, I believe it was, after 92, they lost a playoff series, a tough-fought playoff series, and afterwards, he was like, yeah, we need a guy like that Charles Barkley, and little did he know he got traded for that Charles Barkley just a few months later, and we all know how that magical run went, and this is even more so than that, right? This is arguably, some people would say, a top 5 guy ever in NBA history that's here now. And you watched him in that Suns uniform and you go, wow, okay, I've seen him before. I've seen him over the last decade and a half play basketball, but it hits a lot differently when he's wearing Phoenix across his chest and he's wearing that purple and orange.
How big would you say the championship window is as we sit here at this moment?
It is a garage door. At this point, over the next 16 months, they should be the favorite, not only to win this June, but looking at a year from now, they should be the favorite going into that. And a lot of people say, oh, it's boom or bust. They have to win it this year. I don't believe that. I think this is the house money year. If you can get it all to fall in place and play the way that you hope you can with 19 games in the regular season to lead up to the playoffs and then into the playoffs. If you win this one, this is the gravy one, right? Next year is the must-win title with Kevin Durant. But this is, outside of obviously being up 2-0 in the finals, I think this is the closest they've ever been at this point in a year to being an odds-on title favorite.
Well, and you look, we had you on just a couple weeks ago, and we talked about the window breaking and the glass of the championship window shattering on your head. So, is what has changed so much schematically with this team that makes them such a title contender at this point? Other than the obvious guy wearing the number 35 jersey.
You had a guy that averages 29 points a game. That kind of dramatically shifts everything. Let's be honest. And, Devin Booker now can kind of breathe a sigh of relief. This isn't all on his shoulders. And that's not a knock on Chris Paul. The first year Chris Paul was here, they make the magical run to the finals. He and Devin Booker made a fantastic pair, right? But you could argue that Chris Paul was already 1 foot in the bathtub at that point. He was on the road to washed, and Kevin Durant is still at the top of his game. He was having one of the best seasons he's had before he got injured. in Brooklyn and made Brooklyn look like a title favorite. So now he comes in. Devin Booker can go out there, and we saw it in game one with these two. He can go out there. He can put forth all the effort he needs to in these stretches and know when I come out in the third quarter or early fourth quarter, Kevin Durant can carry the weight with that bench unit like he did, and then they both can come in to finish a game and both have energy left because they can trade off. And that is the thing of beauty here. I think that's why the Suns become a major title contender and likely the odds-on favorite, is because Devin Booker can do more now, can be a distributor. He had 7 assists in the first half of game one with Kevin Durant, and didn't have to score, had 5 rebounds. Like, he can do other things when he's out there with KD. KD can score. Then when he's out there and KD's not, Devin Booker can take over again, and he can get 37 points, and all of a sudden you go, wow, that looked really easy. It wasn't, but it looked a heck of a lot easier than it once was.
Yeah, and Chris Middleton still worries me, a matchup with him in the NBA Finals. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George worry me, a matchup with them and how they score. Denver, with Murray back, that seems like that could be a problem in the playoffs. Do you see any holes in the defense? It's one game. We watched one game, they're playing Charlotte, but without Mikal Bridges, I need to see a little more defensive tape before I'm planning the championship parade.
Look, there's no easy path to an NBA championship, and I don't care what anybody says. Even if you face teams that have injuries, it's still difficult. This Suns team doesn't have a free pass. Let's not misconstrue this. This Suns team will have to work and will have to play to the peak of their abilities to hoist a Larry O'Brien trophy. And as we know in Phoenix all too well, nothing is given. Everything has to be earned. And if you take your foot off the gas at any point, you're not going to win. But defensively, I think Kevin Durant is undervalued. It's tough to imagine that about a guy that's as good as Kevin Durant, but he is very good defensively. He has length. I believe he has a 7'2", 7'3" wingspan. Josh Okogie, who is now in the starting lineup with him, has a 7'1" wingspan. Then you come off the bench with Torrey Craig now, who's part of the bench unit, who had been a starter, who I think will play better off the bench in more of his natural role. He has that energy. He can come out and play the defense with that group, and it gives you a little bit of size on that second unit. I'm not as concerned as other people are on the defensive side. This team has always been predicated on team defense. And yes, Mikal was a great individual defender as well, but Kevin Durant is no slouch. And Josh Okogie, before 2023, was known as a defender and not a guy that could shoot at all. So I think you very much have the makings of a team that could be very good team defensive wise, and that's what Monty's system has been predicated on.
If you were coaching the Suns, which at some point I think might happen in the next 20 years, I could see it happening. I could see you down there getting thrown out of a game, getting a technical foul. How many minutes would you play Durant from now until the playoffs?
Look, I think they could play these guys. Durant played 25 in game one. The rest of the starters played 33. I think you could keep these starters around 33 to 35 minutes and be just fine. Look, really what you have to do is you have to be in the top 4 seeds. You have to have home court for at least one round. I'm not overly concerned about do you need it in subsequent rounds, but you don't want to find yourself in that 5 spot or 6 or God forbid you fall into the play-in. So, I think you can taper some of these minutes for the starters to keep them fresh going into the playoffs, and then all bets are off in the playoffs. 40 plus minutes for each of these guys, minimize some of that bench unit, and I think you've got a combination that very few teams are going to be able to stop those big 4 in that starting lineup.
Does what's happening in Dallas right now and Luka and Kyrie trying to figure it out, does that concern you at all with not a very big window of games here before the playoffs if the Suns run into a situation where it's not quite working?
No, because it's different. Those are 2 very ball-dominant guys that very much want to have control of the offense in their hands. The beauty of what the Suns have going on is Durant can play on the ball or off of it. Devin Booker can. CP3's done more of that this year. DeAndre Ayton doesn't need to be force-fed to be effective. He becomes that third or fourth option. I think he and Chris Paul are like 3.5. They're each that kind of third option together. But it all becomes easier. I don't think they have the problem that the Mavs do. The Mavs don't know who they are. The Suns very much know who they are and are very efficient at hitting those mid-range shots. There's a reason that they're getting called the mid-range assassins right now, is because any one of those four guys can hit from the corner elbow and nobody can stop that.
Have you looked at the weather forecasts at all for like June 28th if we were to plan a championship parade?
I don't know. It's March here and it's still raining and cold, so we may get lucky and have a real nice June to have that parade down Central.
You know, it's going to be 104 in like 4 weeks, and then it's just not gonna. Yeah, it's not gonna end. But that's all right. We can be inside watching basketball. Are you getting out there? What's the coverage plans look like? Will we see you out on the road, or are you just podcasting 24/7 until the Suns win a title?
My parole officer does not let me leave the state. No, I'm just kidding. No, we're going to be doing a lot from here. We'll be sending our beat reporter, Gerald Bourguet, on the road as we get to the playoffs and down the stretch here. But they make me stay in building so I can handle some of the administrative duties I have here as well.
Yeah, and to keep an eye on Derek Montilla. What's he doing? Is he there? Is he covering wrestling? Is he wrestling somebody?
I threw him out of the room. I was afraid he's going to pile drive me through the table, a la Bills fan, and I just couldn't have that happen on camera.
All right, we'll bring him in here. We'll have him wrestle Nick King, or we could maybe put him to work with a wrestling feature. And
I don't think that's fair to Nick. I think you've given him a matchup that he can't win.
I would take Nick. Nick is wiry and he lifts weights like 4 hours a day.
Yeah, Derek's in the gym downstairs here all the time too, and he's got some bulk. He's surprising, so Nick better watch out.
Okay, we need to set this up, the station showdown. All right, so thanks for the time, and good to see you back here on the Arizona's Family Airwaves, and let's do this some more as we go on this wild ride and see if the Suns can hoist the Larry O'Brien Trophy.
Mark, I will be sitting here just waiting for your call.
The Extra Point Podcast is a production of 3TV, CBS 5, and azfamily.com in Phoenix, Arizona.